Hey there, listener. Do you live a life that's outside the norm, maybe outside the box? Maybe you're a serial entrepreneur. Maybe you have multi passions. And then you also have a family. You also have a life that you're trying to find meaning and purpose in from day to day. There is no roadmap for how to live your life, especially when you're taking the road less traveled. So, today, our conversation on the podcast will be about how to navigate all of that and the pitfalls and the challenges and the triumphs. I have my cousin, Jensen Cummings, a fellow podcaster, here to share about his life experiences along this fun and wild ride that we call a multi-dimensional life. So stay tuned. Every day there is a forgetting, and every moment there is the possibility of remembering. Remembering who you truly are, awakening to your body, to the inner world, to the experience of being alive. Here is where you find the beauty, the joy, and here is where you free your soma. I'm your host, Aimee. I'm here to help you move from pain to power, from tension to expansion, and ultimately from fear to love. Hi, Jensen. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast. This is really exciting.
What's up, cuz? This is great. I'm honored to speak with you in this forum.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was so tickled when you reached out a month or so ago and was
Yeah,
like, "Hey, let's reconnect. Let's talk podcasting. Let's talk healing. Let's talk like life, right?" And it's been really wonderful to reconnect with you and hear about like where you've been internally also, the last few years, because I know you've had a fairly public life in some regards, but then we also have like what's going on inside of us, which not everybody gets a window into, right?
100%. Yeah. And we're adults now. It's funny to think about so many of the memories that I have of us as our childhood memories, right? And now it's like we're redefining our lives and both self-starters, both kind of carving our own path as you've laid out. And the fact that now we can reconnect as adults, as parents, as podcasters, as entrepreneurs, business owners. I'm excited about it because we have such shared history that now we get to like reconnect that and think about what that means for us into our new lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both our dads are named William and
Right?
right. And they were both like est guys, or like
Yeah.
self-development guys. We come from
Yes.
a shared like family mythology, you know what I mean? So there's a sort of this ground level stuff that we've both been impacted by in different ways.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And the fact that we're both, as you mentioned, entrepreneurs, we've, you know, been doing our thing pretty much our whole lives. I mean, I think maybe you can give people a little background if they're not familiar with Best Served podcast and your background as a restaurateur. I don't know if that's what you call yourself or an entrepreneur, right?
Like
Um,
a recovering restaurateur and chef.
yes, in
That's
recovery from that.
post post life. Yeah, I went into the restaurant industry, which is on the other side of the family from your and I's familial connection. We have five consecutive generations of chef restaurateurs, right? We opened our first restaurant in 1900 in Little Falls, Minnesota, called La Fond House. It's like the French side of the family on my dad William's side. And then that was great grandparents, great grandparents and grandparents had bars and restaurants in San Francisco. My dad's three younger brothers all own restaurants in multiple different states. Even my younger brother, Mitchell, right? He's also in the culinary field. And so, graduating high school in California, they shipped me off to Ames, Iowa, where my uncles have restaurants. And I thought I was just going to go wash dishes and have a summer job, kind of get out of California for a little bit, stop getting into so much trouble. And I just kind of found my people and really clicked for me. And so I ended up working for them for 5, 6 years, going to culinary school, meeting my now wife, Betsy, then started to take it really seriously, kind of went into like the chef driven, high end, progressive dining scene, became a pretty notable chef in Denver, then became chef owner, then became a burnout in the restaurant industry, started doing consulting and strategy work, and then the media and the podcast, which now I have 5 podcasts, 2 more in development. I'm like a serial podcaster now. It's a problem. It's a problem for sure. That started in 2019 as I wanted to like reconnect with the roots of what I loved about restaurants and cooking and the people, and to acknowledge and highlight what I call unsung hospitality heroes, the really the bedrock of both like the culture and commerce that restaurants create in any given community that weren't acknowledged and highlighted. I recognized my own kind of trajectory and privilege of being somebody who was talked about, written about on television, on radio, in magazines, things like that. And I started to read my own news clippings too much and think that I was the chef who was driving everything, and the reality was like I was just the tip of the iceberg, and it was really the team that was important. And every time I've succeeded, it's because I took care of and nurtured and was responsible for great people. And every time that I've been a failure and failed, it's because I took people for granted and thought
Mm.
that it was all me. And so that was kind of that's where the media side came about, and we started Best Serve. And when the pandemic hit, I did 7 to 10 episodes a week.
Wow.
Every week I was on every single day for almost 6 months. That's like what really laid that foundation. Now we've done over 450 episodes, so it's a big piece. So I know the hustle and the struggle that you go through as a podcaster to try and create a voice and an identity and share and build an audience and community and highlight and acknowledge the stories of others. So again, I appreciate being here and being able to share with you.
Yeah, well, and I completely understand what you just said about thinking that we, you know, when we get some kind of acknowledgement and someone goes like, "Oh wow, like look what you accomplished."
Mm,
We forget that it's always a team effort. It's always, a collaboration. Whether if we're a solopreneur and we really are like, in this case with me, it's like, oh yeah, it kind of is a one woman show. Like I don't have any employees, but at the end of the day, if I'm really like frank, it's like, oh no, like there's so many people who have contributed
hmm.
to what
Yeah.
I show up as every time that I show up with a client, every time that I show up in my podcast or, in a speaking event or anything. There's always people who have massively contributed to my well-being and my integrity, right? And
Yeah.
so I really
It
appreciate
always
that.
takes a village, and it's a two-way street no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing. And we're all in certain businesses talk about being a people business. All businesses are people business. I don't care if you make sprockets, right? It's all about a humanistic approach. And certain businesses are relationship businesses, which restaurants, the work that you do, there's a relationship and a bond that's built that's very unique. And sometimes we take that for granted. And that's
Mm.
definitely what I've recognized and had to grapple with a little bit, both professionally and personally, which I know we'll talk about. And I see that every time I, again, took for granted or squeezed too hard, sometimes it's the opposite. Like you
Mm.
kind of want to force the positivity into existence, especially as kind of an entrepreneur. And that can be equally a problem. So it very
Yeah.
is like finding this middle road, this Buddhist Zen space where you're like, you can be on fire, but you have to have some balance, and you have to be able to reset. And that's some of the stuff that I'm already grateful for the somatic work that you and I have done together. It's part of my daily routine now, and it just allows me to like recenter a little bit. And
Mm.
I still spin off my axis all the time. Like I'm still
Yeah.
batty. I'm
Well,
still
that's the
intense. I'm
thing.
team intense.
Exactly. I mean, people misunderstand what it means to have been regulated in their nervous system. They
Mm,
think it's going to be like boring. They think it's going to be like they're just going to be chill and relaxed all the time. And it's like, no, actually, being regulated means that you can climb even bigger fucking mountains. Like, if that's what you
mm,
want to do, because you know how to come back to homeostasis, and your homeostasis is actually at rest, not just another, layer of stress, right? So that's the idea behind, like, Thomas Hanna, like the guy who developed my modality. He wasn't like, wanting people to just be relaxed all the time. If you talk to my dad about it, that's what my dad wants to do though. That's his prerogative. He just
yeah,
wants to
and
be
that's his
relaxed all the
style.
time now. Yeah. But
Yeah.
like, But Thomas Hanna was like, no, so you can go do whatever you want with your body so that you can do whatever you want with your precious life. And you're not going to be limited by the buildup and the buildup of stress that
Mm.
leads to burnout, that leads to, I literally can't do this anymore. My body is saying no, like, in whatever way that's showing up, whether it's physically,
Yep.
physical
Yep.
pain, whether it's mental and emotional anguish, whether it's depression and lethargy, like that's your body saying, I'm at my limit.
Yeah, the first episode of yours that I listened to was a solo episode that you did like 3:30 in the morning, and you kind of speak to that in the episode, talking about rest. So just even the polarizing episode that led into kind of me starting to understand your storytelling style and approach was like, okay, let me talk about rest at 3:30 in the morning as my brain is on fire thinking about how I need to rest, right? And so it's totally this tug and pull type scenario that we find ourselves in. That's life I'm finding more and more, and I forget that at times, and I'm trying to stay tethered to that while still being very lofty in my goals and ambitions and hopes and dreams and all that.
Yeah. Well, like you said before, we as entrepreneurs, we do have to be on fire sometimes. And there's a certain level of, you know, delusion that we need, like delusions of grandeur that we need to
No doubt.
carry. We have to, otherwise nothing would happen and we wouldn't do the remarkable, amazing shit that we do as entrepreneurs. We have to have like that really big, like vision. And sometimes it has to be of ourselves to get through to the next thing, right? And then there's the balance between that and actually staying grounded and not letting it all go to your head or go to your wallet, and get too ridiculous, which we have plenty of people we could point to in our modern culture who got ridiculous with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and especially it's all on display now,
Yeah.
right? And so seeing the journey as you go, it's interesting because I like building in public. It's something as I've got into media and content and podcasting, like building in public and showing the process is a thing. And it's very vulnerable and it's really hard to not compare yourselves to other people in the space that you're in. So that's a difficult approach when, yeah, everything is public facing all the time. And we are trying to engage in public forums in the way that we do with media and with podcasting. And sometimes and I have at times like just wanted to just hide for a little while and try
Mm-hmm.
and work on things with no attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that again is this polarizing thing. The amount of push and pull that you experience in this is totally fascinating. I just saw a clip that Scott Galloway talked about this where he went to UCLA and he had a good friend of his, roommate perhaps, that went on the more corporate trajectory and he went on the entrepreneur trajectory, and he was rich, poor, depressed, on cloud nine, like all of these emotional things, and then they connected years and years and years later, and he had made way more money and way less money. It was like this rabbit and the hare story where basically they had fallen to this place of equilibrium where net they had made the same amount of money over that time period. But one had done it in this very slow and steady corporate ladder, being able to clock in and clock out, mentally, physically, emotionally. But then on the other side, you're having this emotional, financial reality roller coaster. And you really have to want that for some reason. I don't know why we want that.
I think it's an
That makes
adventure.
us feel
That's
more
It
alive. I
is.
don't
I
know
think
what
it's
it
I
is.
think it's a constitutional thing. Like I think it's the person's
Mm,
individual constitution because some people would just never choose that. There's some
yeah,
people out there that would just be like, no, like I'm just going to clock in and clock out and I'm going to, have somebody else pay my taxes and that's what I want. And then there are those people who actually have that for a period of time and they realize it's not what they want, that they
yeah,
want a more exciting life. They want to play by their own rules. They want to make a bigger impact in, some way, right? Follow their dreams. And so following your dreams is always going to be a crazy adventure. It's
mm,
not going to be, and you don't get adventure without challenge. You don't get adventure without adversity. We would never watch an action movie that had no challenge or conflict in it. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I
right.
mean?
The
Like
hero's
that would
journey has
be,
a clear arc,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
need to fall flat on your face. Have you found this? This is an unfortunate part that I've started to realize and recognize as I've now been forced through a lot of personal and professional turmoil over the last few years, zoom out and take a step back. I found at certain times when things were going well, I literally self-sabotage because it seems too simple, too easy. It's not challenging enough. And I've recognized these peaks and these valleys, many of them were self-inflicted.
Right. Yeah.
And that's been really hard to be like, you were the problem. Even though you were the one working so hard to create the solution, it's like, oh man. And that self-sabotage thing has become very palpable and real for me. And
Yeah.
had to take account and responsibility for that. And
Did you know that your muscles are holding on to thoughts, memories, and feelings? If you have a tight neck or back, you're not just getting old, you're experiencing a buildup of tension from the life you've lived. Most people don't know this, but there is a part of your brain that can reverse and prevent chronic tension. When you relax your muscles, you not only move better and regulate your nervous system, but you also free yourself from the grip the past has over your body. So you can live with freedom, confidence, and enjoy your life now. How does that sound? Join me, Aimee Takaya, and discover what my clients are raving about at youcanfreeyoursoma.com.
Yeah.
I
Well,
like it.
I have a little like tweak on that because I personally don't love the term self-sabotage because I feel like it's limiting to the kind of bigger
Of
picture of like
course.
what's going on. So if you're interested, I'll like dive into just like
Yeah, I
how
get it.
self-sabotage is often something your nervous system is doing to feel more safe. Because if this new shit that's feeling really good is happening, that's not what you're used to in life. You're used to things being challenging. You're used to riding off the seat of your pants. In a way, that's more predictable and that's safer than things just getting better and better and better. And so often our nervous systems are not tuned to success, or basically they have to get more and more tuned to success, meaning that we can tolerate feeling better and better and better. Now, what gets in the way of feeling better and better and better are beliefs and programming that we have. And, lots of NLP people talk about this. I take a slightly different approach in somatics, right? But basically, how can we teach your nervous system that it's safe to feel good, that it's safe to enjoy your life, that it doesn't mean that shit's about to hit the fan, that you don't have to brace yourself for something bad happening, because that's what a lot of our bodies have been conditioned into believing, not just through our own life experiences, but through our generational experiences in our families. Don't feel too good about this because it's all going to fall apart, right?
Yeah. The other shoe is always about to drop.
Exactly. So it's about tuning your nervous system to be able to feel higher and higher levels of good and success, because that's what not our nervous systems aren't tuned to that when they're in fight or flight.
Yeah, I think a couple things that jumped out at me when you talk about the generational part of it, where I'm a firstborn son of four. Already I have innate slash cultural slash generational institutional expectations that are put on me or that I put onto myself in the abstract, that I just decided that that was going to be the way that it was. Then I'm type A, color code red, arsonist, rebel, whatever character archetype test you want. I am that. I am that intense personality. And so I'm doubly just queued up to always be ready for a fight. Right. And then on top of that, I was trained to be a problem solver as well
Right.
in me. And then most of being a chef was problem solving in real time, on the fly, with the intensity that I think a lot of people now culturally have seen on television and dramatized and these things. So they see the intensity of that type of work. So when there's not a problem, I get anxious. Or sometimes I flip and it's like depressing to me.
Right. Or you
So
create a problem.
sometimes, and that's the problem. Then I create the problem. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like I need to find a way to find simple joy and equilibrium homeostasis to not need to have that level of drama to feel like I can thrive and be the best version of myself.
Right, right. Or finding, I guess, ways that the drama can be like adequately contained or funneled into, because like
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
a,
Yeah.
a, a podcast interview. It's not come out yet, so I won't like say too much about it, but there's a inner child expert that was on my show who was talking about these different kind of types. And you sort of described like one of the types, like the aggression. And I have that too. Like I definitely have a very strong personality. So I was talking with her about that, like, oh, okay, well, if I'm this aggressive type, whatever that means and the way that
Mhm.
I show up that way, what are the gifts in that? Because she's saying there are gifts to
Mhm.
every type. And she was like, well, the aggressive type, that's charisma. That's drawing an audience. That's like being able to stand up in front of everybody and let the attention come on you and shine and speak and be a leader, right? So there's so much in that like kind of Mars, aggressive kind of energy that yeah, it can go ballistic. Yeah, we could just be lighting fires to put them out, or we can find ways to channel that energy into something purposeful, right? And into our charisma, into our performance, so that it has a destination and it's not just burning our lives to the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh, yes, that 100% makes sense to me, and that's where I'm at. That's why you and I are talking and reconnected. Is like I recognized a couple things for reaching out to you specifically. You're the first person coming out of the what we've talked about a lot, but this ayahuasca experience that I had,
Oh, really? Yeah.
coming out of the back of a pretty long, deep battle with depression, that I wanted to use the superpower I have of seeing people and being able to understand where they're coming from and being able to articulate a story that highlights who they are and being able to create a space that people can share their voices, share their stories, their experiences, their joys, their pains, their skills, any of those things. That's what really lights my fire. And so coming out of that experience is like, I need to really reconnect to my community. And I was like, I need to start with family. And I wanted to really reach out to family. The other was, I want to acknowledge the work of other people doing podcasting and media who are out there willing to put themselves on the line to share these types of stories. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, Aimee's both. So I was like, I need to reach out to Aimee first and connect and talk, and now we're here. So this is how it evolves for us. You and I right away, we're like, well, we got to do a podcast about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and when you told me about, and I guess we can gonna explore this now, like when you told me that you went through this ayahuasca experience, I was surprised because that is kind of like, it's not one of those things that you just like do for the hell of it. Like people do that because they need to have a big breakthrough. And so hearing that you chose that and that you said yes to that and that you went into that, I wouldn't necessarily say like surprised, but I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's how it is. Like that's what's
Yeah.
going on right now. Like this is some
You
big.
instantly recognized there was stakes. It was okay,
Yes.
we're here now. I got you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then, you were very just, open. And I think that openness is part of the process. I mean, I've never personally done ayahuasca, I'll just say that, but I have had my own experiences with, my major shifts in consciousness. It's something I shared about on a previous podcast way once upon a time back when I first started my business, right? But long story short, I experienced what the medical field would call mania and psychosis. Right, I experienced
Mhm.
that when I was 19, and then I came out of it, and I started my healing journey. I basically was initiated now to doing yoga and nutritional healing and taking care of my body as this kind of health insurance that would never happen again. Hopefully, right, that my brain would stay stable, and thankfully, for the most part, it has. with tools and with persistence and now with somatics, right? But I do recognize that people sometimes need a really big breakthrough, wake up call, initiation And that's what ayahuasca and things like these plant medicines in the, right environment can offer a person. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about what preceded making that choice, right? And saying yes to that level of a journey, and then, what the outcome has been for you.
Yeah, I'll even layer something that you just said to kind of cue up how big of a leap that was for me. Because I could tell just the way that you said surprise that I said yes to it. I am the least crunchy in our family. One of the least crunchy. We have a very independent, free thinking family. My mom and my sisters, especially, but then extending out in circles, even my father, are very much in the space of thinking about the spiritual and the metaphysical in very unique ways, right? Very off the beaten path ways, and very woo woo at times.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I was very, very different than that. I was more still blazing a different trail, but much more mainstream, much more like grounded in certain ways. And so for me to say yes to plant medicine in this way was a pretty big leap.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that again, that family, that generational type thing. My mother was one of the ones that recommended it when I was in the depths of my depression. And, whose mom is recommending you should go do psychedelics? Like, right? So that kind of like frames it up. But I went through 2 years of deep depression, a year of which was completely undiagnosed and unrecognized and realized because I've never dealt with any type of mental health issues in my life. I've always been on the fast track and never slowed down long enough to think about my own physical or mental health at all. So to all of a sudden realize that I was in that place, and then, trigger warning for your audience, but it led to a place where I tried to take my own life. Like, I'm the person that everyone goes, you're the last person I would ever expect to have said that, because I am such a go-getter. I'm such a glasses half full type person, very positive outlook. There are no problems, only opportunities for solutions, like that kind of bullshit. So that really took me and everybody by surprise. So then I went on the more traditional path. I was like, okay, I can't regulate myself. I'm spun completely off my axis. Whatever I'm doing is not working. So I went into a, facility for 4 days. They put me on medications. I went on that more traditional pharmaceutical slash therapy slash psychiatrist path. And I did that for almost a year, and it just wasn't
Mm.
working for me. I wasn't seeing any results. I tried to stay patient, and I did stay patient through that and say, look, it's going to be a long journey. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be completely out of your element. You're not going to understand what to do. Just stay at it, because you can't self-diagnose, and your path wasn't working. So I said, okay, I stayed on that. Ayahuasca specifically came up a few times. Again, my mother recommended it. We have a family connection of somebody who is a practitioner. So I'd been aware of it. I'd seen a couple documentaries. Aaron Rodgers is doing it. So all of a sudden, like a famous NFL football player is doing it. And it's becoming a little bit more mainstream. It's having a zeitgeist type moment. And then I had been hosting these men's meeting for a group called CHOW, Culinary Hospitality Outreach and Wellness, a nonprofit working in mental health space for hospitality workers. And on Christmas Day, we had the meeting, and we stay for the whole hour. There's the host and there's two hosts, basically, just in case somebody needs to check in. It was Christmas Day. Nobody came. The host and I spoke the whole time, and he was in Costa Rica doing ayahuasca retreats. He was there for 4 months or so. So he kind of broke it down for me and told me kind of what happens. I told him what's going on with me. He's like, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have to come to this on your own. I would just say, hearing your story and the experience that I have, you were an absolute prime candidate for this type of experience, this type of journey. A ceremony is
Yeah.
what I learned it was called, an ayahuasca ceremony. And that type of medicine, they call it actual ingestion of the ayahuasca tea, as it were. And that day I said yes. And then my team, that community, the village that we've referenced multiple times, went into action.
Mm.
And the sisters, the mom, my wife, everybody, all the women in my family are powerful, powerful, yourself included, right? We are very matriarchal led family. They went into action mode and planned everything. And I got plane tickets, I got this, I got that. Like everything's scheduled, calendar. I was just able to show up because making that decision is really difficult.
Yeah.
Then getting yourself there's just so many excuses you could come up with when you're in the depth of like recovery and depression and all these
Right.
things.
Right.
And I found myself coming up with those excuses in my head. And once I said yes, my team would not let me have any of those excuses. And that experience happened and it changed my life completely. And we can talk about any details about that if you want. We don't have to. One thing I will say, kind of for your audience to understand how much of a difference is every single day I thought about hurting myself
Mm.
for a year and a half. I had a 2-day experience of ayahuasca, and for months now, I have not thought about that once. I have not gone back onto my medications, and I'm still grinding and struggling and all of those things, but I'm on a completely different path now.
Yeah.
It blew my fucking mind, Aimee.
I believe
It was
you.
like a cheat code.
Yeah.
I still think the other shoe's gonna drop. I keep waiting, be like, like, was that just this thing that happened over here? And when I come back to reality, it's not going to sink in. I have ups and downs, but it is fully like imprinted into my DNA in a way that I'm eternally grateful for and still completely flabbergasted by. It's
Yeah.
unreal.
No, I mean, it's a powerful thing to do. And,
Mm,
you know, I think that one of the things I'd love to just say here is that it sounds like you having this experience of depression, while it sounds like it was pretty severe and extreme for a couple of years, right? That you didn't have like a long prior history of that,
mm,
seems to me like it would make you even, there'd be less risk factors, right? If someone has like a long
right.
history of mental illness or a long history of certain kinds of struggles, right, that's more deeply like kind of, I don't know, delved into their nervous system or into their genetic
Mm,
material, sometimes psychedelics aren't the best idea for someone like
yeah.
that. But for you, you were really primed with like all the crunchy ladies in your family and all the higher consciousness conversation anyway, even if it was not the channel that you were regularly tuning into. You know what I mean? I think that those kind of things, even if you're not, I don't know, actively engaging in it, it's like part of an underlying foundation of that positivity, of that kind of
Yeah.
like momentum that you've carried, right? And so your experience through this sounds like it was kind of meant to be. Like it sounds like it was sort of like waiting for you, right? Like you
Yeah.
could
And I was
say
able to
like
reset to your
destined.
point
Yeah.
a little quicker, maybe because it was dark and heavy and completely unraveled my life, personally, professionally, financially, all of it for 2 years. But also, the reality to your point is it wasn't 40 years.
Right.
It wasn't this, it was a blip. The reality is, in the whole scheme of things, it was a blip for me. So I was able to reset fairly quickly. So I wouldn't diminish anybody's experiences if they didn't have these epiphanies and revelations that completely turned them around. I'm not saying that that's the experience that everybody would have. Luckily for me, that is the experience that I had. And I was able to, the word openness was like my mantra through all of it
Mm.
because I didn't want to close off because it was so crunchy. And we're celebrating the ancestral plane and the spirits of the West and the cosmic forces. I'm like, oh God, what are we doing here? Like, no, stay open. Don't close off. This is happening. You're here for a reason. You need this. You want this. Stay open. And there were three big revelations that I had. And one was kind of coming to terms with that suicide attempt and understanding that I didn't want to die. I just was afraid to live. And I
Yeah.
was like gripped by that and paralyzed by that and recognized that that was a cry for help deep, deep, deep inside to make foundational change within
Mm.
my life. The second was I had this really wild, this is where the psychedelics come in. It's very different than other psychedelics I've done in the past. It's not like I'm staring at a painting for 3 hours watching it melt and do weird stuff. It's very internalized. But I did have this internal personified conversation with my depression. It
Mm,
was like this ethereal, faceless, shapeless thing, but I spoke directly to it. And I thought I was going to be so mad, so resentful. And I was grateful. I like thanked it and said, I realized that you had an important job to do. You had a brutal teacher. You had to push me all
yeah.
the way to the edge
I'm getting
for me to find
chills.
my way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was so powerful. And I said, I appreciate you. I understand you. I don't need you anymore. You can go. And I felt the depression leave my body, turn around, and walk away.
Right.
And it has not returned. It was so real watching this, poof of smoke leave my body basically.
Yeah.
And it was gripping and real. And it opened me up to have the third kind of profound moment for me was being completely overcome with unconditional love
Yeah.
and recognizing and realizing I never really understood love to this degree. It was something I understood and even felt on paper or intellectually. I didn't let it soak into my bone marrow in this way. I'd never been willing to ask for and accept love without it being accolade driven, without
Mm,
it being accomplishment driven. I've always been like, look at all these things that I've done. Look at these capabilities that I have. Look at these successes that I've had. Look at these articles written about me. These are the things that are of merit and value and that are worthy of
right.
being loved and admired and adored and all those things. And I had to really say, none of that stuff actually matters. It's nice. And I still have ego and all those things. I don't need that to be willing to ask for and accept love. And that was the third and the biggest kind of earth moving revelation that I had throughout this process. And I've been really trying to hold on to that. It's easy to lose track of that a little bit and kind of get back into your rhythms of just doing shit for the sake of doing it, versus like having it be intentional, meaningful, and purposeful in the way that I'm interacting and kind of showing up every day. And, even yesterday,
Yeah.
Betsy had to call me. I was like, hey, you're kind of slipping a little bit on that. I was like, okay, all right. And I'm very accepting and open to the feedback on a personal level now, which I've never been able to kind of accept either because I've always kept people at an arm's distance so that I could be in control of the relationship.
Wow. Yeah. This is a big like reprogramming of
That was like
some
a,
very, yeah, some like very core, you know, I guess I could say like fundamental pieces of your identity. And I can
mm,
totally imagine how, again, eldest child, boy, problem solver, all of those things that you described earlier would kind of condition you to be the way that you were. Like it's understandable that you turned out that way, that you lived that
mm,
way, that you had this approach of love and, worthiness being completely dependent on your performance or how you showed up or whether what you did was good enough, right? I think as eldest children, we get a lot of that pressure because we're comparing ourselves to adults all the time when we're like little kids. We're
mhm.
just surrounded by adults. We don't have siblings yet. And then when we do have siblings, we're still getting looked up to all the time, expecting more of us because we're the older one. And so there's a very deep reprogramming where you are now going to start living, it seems, in a world where you are worthy of love as you are without any conditions that you succeed or that you show up a certain way. Like what kind of life might it be that you deserve love even when you're crabby and grouchy and like I'm speaking
Right.
for myself here, like when I'm in a bad mood I
Yeah, I'm
still
with you.
deserve love, you know what I mean? Like when I'm laying on the couch like being ugly in my pajamas, like I still deserve love.
Maybe more at those moments than the moments
Perhaps.
of
Yeah.
that pinnacle that we think is the moment that we finally get to accept that love. I think it's the other way around.
Right.
Those moments now, those pinnacle moments, I'm realizing aren't actually for me, for us.
Yeah.
It's for everybody else to be able to celebrate in their participation in it,
Yeah.
whatever level of participation, showing up at the award ceremony or being the ones that propped you up that you could get that award. They're still participating in that journey. That's about celebrating them. And I used to think it was about finally I get to be celebrated in this way that I totally deserve and have been working for and have performed in this way. And it's pretty sure it's the other way around. That's for them.
Right.
Those moments, those ugly moments on the couch, those are the moments that you deserve love.
Right. I mean, like, I think that
At least that's what I'm telling myself.
well, no, and it totally aligns with like some of the things that I've been exploring, with clients, which is like, you get to be not perfect. And when you're not perfect, when you fail dismally, when things are really going wrong, that is when you actually need more support. That is when you
Yeah,
need,
facts.
you need more poor babies. You need someone holding you and telling you it's going to be okay. And if you can't do that for yourself, it's self-abandonment. If you can't, hold yourself in your frustration and failure, then, you're probably not going to let anybody else hold you that way either, if you're not able to give that love or that acknowledgement to yourself. So kind of like we get so programmed by our culture to, kick ourselves when we're down. And what we really need
Yeah,
is a
really.
hand up. What we really need is someone to, and that someone, like I said, it just has to start growing inside of us, that we can show up for ourselves in that way, because we maybe didn't have parents that did that all the time, or didn't do that in the way we needed it. you know it's just how it goes. We have to build that mechanism within ourselves to create validation and love in those really hard moments, not just when
Mm.
it's easy, right?
We glorify this idea of picking yourself up by your bootstraps, being so self-reliant that you get knocked down, you get back up again. You get knocked down 9 times, you get back up 10.
Right.
There's truth to that. It's only half the equation, though.
Yeah.
You have to be able to have people around you that actually are the ones that pick you up.
Right.
You're just not doing that by yourself.
Right. And reflect back to you who you really are when you've forgotten.
Yeah. Ooh, that gave me chills. That's tough. It's tough to allow other people to reflect that back on you because that feels like you're giving up your power,
Mm.
or it felt like that to me. And allowing others to see me when I wasn't the best of the best was probably the most petrifying thing I could imagine.
It's vulnerable, right?
Right. And now I'm willing to talk about it, on a podcast is light years away from like who I was.
Yeah.
But if I want to see myself as somebody who's capable and brave and willing to put themselves out there and share, then I have to share that. Like the rest of it doesn't matter until I'm willing to share that and acknowledge that. Then I can come from a place where I can actually share and build in public and share the process and share other people's journeys and acknowledge them and be willing and able to see beauty in broken things.
Yeah.
And I've heard this before, and now I'm starting to understand it, that broken people make the best leaders. And
Yeah.
that's a little bit reductive, but I get it now. I understand kind of the theme at play when you say something like that, because all of a sudden you have a level of understanding and empathy and a broader range of experience that allow you to interact in completely new and hopefully more meaningful ways, because you don't have to be everything for everybody.
Right.
You don't have to hold all of the space. You can allow others to occupy space because you now recognize, oh, there's way more spaces than I realized because you were on this singular focus. This is what it looks like when you succeed. Turns out it looks like everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I know. And it's a journey to broaden your perspective on that, especially as
mm,
an entrepreneur, because we do get very focused on the bottom line because nobody else is paying us,
yeah,
So, like, we got
no
to make
doubt.
this go. So, I've had that experience over the last few years where, I created something, I put on an event, or I ran and,
Hmm.
a retreat or something, and I didn't get the turnout that I wanted for all kinds of different reasons. I didn't get paid as much as I wanted to get paid, which again, it's like, I've got to pay the bills, I got to pay the rent,
Mm,
like all the things are still going to come in. And how can I, in that moment when feeling like I failed because this number is different than I thought it would be, right? the number of people showing up or the number of people paying me or whatever. But
Oh,
then,
heartbreaking sometimes.
but then there's the moment where I actually get present to like what is happening and the human beings that did show up and did say yes and the transformations that they're getting to experience because I did this. And that is a level of success that is immeasurable. That because I said yes and I forged forward as the leader in this field, specifically somatics, and I created a thing that someone came and it changed their life, that is success. You know what I'm saying? So, like, at the end of the day, like that broadening of what we consider success to be. And it's that it doesn't just look one way, and that there's all these little opportunities to grow and learn
Mhm.
and develop and enhance and provide value to other human beings. You know, what you're saying about, right before you said it, I was thinking you're stepping into like a new level of leadership because you've always been a leader, but this is a new level of leadership you're stepping into because you are now connected more to your humanity.
Yeah. And to others too. One thing that came to me during that ayahuasca journey was this phrase that kept coming up for me in trying to figure out how I navigate the world and how I navigate personally and professionally this idea of being a storyteller. And it was one honest moment. I was like, I'm always trying to do too much. I'm trying to do too much. And if I can just create the opportunity and recognize, maybe harder even, recognize when there's truly one honest moment and feeling accomplished, that in all of the interactions, the discussions, the podcasts, anything that I'm doing, if I'm just creating one honest moment, then that is a triumph. And I should be willing and able to celebrate that, not because there was this accomplishment that is worthy of those awards, of those accolades, of those things. It doesn't have to be that. And maybe accumulation and a culmination of enough one honest moments as a body of work, then that can be the thing that I hold up on a pedestal. That thing that could be worthy of the accolades and the awards and all of the recognition because there was enough one honest moments. But building it one honest moment at a time versus trying to hit a grand slam every single time, that's a struggle for me. That's where I'm trying to put my focus, and I'm kind of trying to recenter and reevaluate and allow that to be kind of where I'm coming from, my standing position starting at that point and being willing to move forward from there.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're speaking to substance. You're speaking to
Yeah, depth.
depth and nutrition. Like we could talk about, it's like this is actually nutritious. Like we could pile on
Mm.
all the word salad that we want, and all the things, right? And maybe we'll relate this actually to cooking here, but like if you don't have a deep enough flavor profile or
Ooh,
actually use the quality ingredients, and it doesn't mean that it has to taste good. It could just taste very interesting. It could taste, like really unusual. That's what I like about the way you're saying an honest moment. That's not the same thing as like a good moment. It could
yeah,
be an honest moment that is hard. It could be an honest moment
hard,
that is
uncomfortable. Yeah.
uncomfortable and weird, but it's honest and it's real and there's nutrition there. There's value there. There's depth there, right?
Yeah, and potentially healing, growth, all of those things I think come from that. And the acknowledgement, the word acknowledgement is something that I've always used and treasured and tried to understand and tried to apply. And that came to me a lot of times. It's like just acknowledge anything, everything, right? Not just the pretty stuff,
Yeah.
not just the chefy stuff, the stuff that deserves to have, its place on the plate. It's all the things that lead to getting that dish, whatever that
Yeah.
is for you in your reality, in your world, in your work, in your life. It's everything that led to what gets on the plate that is actually the work. And acknowledging those pieces, to your point, that sometimes I was so focused on getting somebody to tell me the thing that was the most profound, the most interesting, the most unique, whatever it is. And the reality is the most interesting, unique, and profound things are those little nasty bits, right? Those interesting things. And they can be happy and joyful. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
like I'm always
Yeah.
just searching for the pain. Like I need you to, cry in front of me. And that means I created one honest moment. Like it's not necessarily that. It's just reading between the lines and being willing to ask the question that somebody needs, wants, maybe doesn't even realize they need or want, that then allows them to go, oh wait, okay, let me tell you something true. And if I can create that opportunity and build the trust and rapport in sometimes a very short period of time, and not force it, then I can feel like I did my job.
Right, right. Yeah. And I mean, people need that. People need to be able to be frank and talk about real shit. They do, like we have lived in a world where people, a lot of mainstream, whatever conventional, non-crunchy sorts of people, right? They go, oh, no, I don't talk about any of that. This isn't therapy. Like or they're like, oh, I do that, but I do that with my therapist, right? We have this compartmentalized view of like
Mm,
what's supposed to be talked about when and where. A lot of it is unspoken and social conditioning. And I feel like more and more, like, whatever maybe the internet would say, like this post cringe era, like TV shows like The Office, where people just like were this like awkward human, like oversharing type of human, right? We now have like a wider conversation of like what's appropriate or what's okay to talk about. But I think that's a good thing. I think that people need to be able to be real and say what's real. And, yeah, it's not like you never want to have a filter for sure. Time and place does matter. But when
yeah.
we create,
Situational awareness is a good thing to have.
absolutely. And can we create a container? Can we create situations and spaces where people are allowed to say what's real, where people are allowed to actually open up about their innermost thoughts and feelings, right? Because I think you already said it, but other people want to hear that. People want to know what's going on inside other people, and they see themselves in other people's sharing. They see themselves in other people's
Yeah.
stories. It's powerful.
Yeah, there's a resonance there for sure. For you, Aimee, like you do body work, somatics on paper. When you look at like what is it? It's this. Like you have to do so much more communicating and pulling at the whole person. Like, how do you balance that? It's something I'm interested in because I recognize often I have this, I'm doing a podcast, I'm doing media. It seemingly has one lane, but the reality is if you're good at it, you're sometimes a coach, therapist, cheerleader, like you have to
Yeah.
be all of those things and embody all those things. I don't know, how do you navigate that for yourself because
I
it's
really,
really, really challenging. I'm
yeah.
struggling with it constantly.
I think that the bodywork piece for me is such a feature, rather than a bug, because there's
Yeah.
so much that is communicated through movement and through, a person's sensational experience, that I don't have to be as responsible to say all the right things or to have them go down the right mental pathways or whatever to get the breakthrough, because their body intelligence does it.
Mm,
There's a communication with my nervous system to their nervous system that is wordless, you know, that their system just starts to open and relax. And it's not like I don't have to be careful what I say. I absolutely am. I try to be very present and stay present to, you said pulling on the other person. It's different than that. It's almost like I'm letting them lead me where they need to go.
there we go.
So I might have an idea or an agenda. I might look at the way your body's positioned or what you're talking about and have some kind of association. And maybe I'm not far from the mark, but your nervous system and your body knows better than me what it needs. And so for me, like it's been a natural, I would say the body work and the movement and this that receptive quality has naturally led me into my own, I don't really consider myself a coach. I used this phrase recently as like, I'm an educator with mystical tendencies. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I am. I'm an educator. I'm your friend. We're talking, we're sharing. I don't have the structure of like a therapist where I can't tell you about my life. Like I'm at liberty to say like whatever I want to say because I don't have like,
Mhm.
some legislature or lose my license or whatever. I don't have to worry about that. Right.
Yeah, you don't have
So
those restrictions as
yeah.
constructs.
So I can be very natural with people and I can allow them to be natural and I just follow where they lead. and I bring along my whole self. And that's been a process. That's not something that I think most people just do it. It's a process. And it involves a lot of just practicing what I preach, doing the somatic work myself, having other people hold space for me. I do that a lot when I'm thinking about, my accomplishments, right? It's like there's a lot of people who've held space for me. My
Mhm.
dad is one huge one, you know what I mean? But many people have held space for me, other coaches and healers and teachers, and so that I can be the client, right?
I like what you said, that they, client being they, kind of guide and lead you a little bit. And I mentioned the hero's journey, like that arc, and the guide is an important part of that. It's the Yoda
Yeah.
character, right? It's the guide. And I had to realize that my hero's journey was that I'm not the hero, I'm the guide.
Mm,
And just the recognition of that is interesting. And as the guide, you have to be as willing and able to lead and follow, and sometimes simultaneously,
yes.
which is such a bizarre kind of balancing act to be able to do. It's complicated because, to your point, like those moments like come and go quickly sometimes, and they
Rapidly.
happen
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
rapid succession, and your ability to change tone and temperature in the room, so to speak, at any given moment is
Yeah.
really, really fucking difficult.
You got to be mommy and daddy. You got to do both, right? You got to
That's
oh, right
that's it.
now we need a little bit more energy. We need a little more. It's like that fire, that we're these
Mm,
fiery people. It's like, okay, I got to add just a little more fire, right? Okay, that's enough. Okay,
yeah.
pull it back. You don't want to
Yeah.
burn this, right? And then now, oh, now it's getting too hot. We need to add a little water, right? It's a dance, right? The whole
The
time.
mental gymnastics that takes is so much. And I've been really working on active listening a
Mm,
lot. And it's so hard to be like, okay, I need to listen. And when I'm listening, I'm not in my own head. But then I have microseconds to take in everything somebody said and then be able to dial up or down that temperature. And the ability to do those with nanoseconds is really, really challenging. And one of the things that I've been trying to do, and this is why the somatic work and connecting with you and some of the other kind of healing process stuff that I'm doing, is trying to balance mind and body. I'm
mm.
such an intellectual person. I'm so mind over matter and always have been. And that's been a strength and a weakness when all of a sudden I had this blip where my mind was
Right, not your friend
failing
anymore.
me is the wrong word, but it was
Yeah.
it was fighting back, it was pushing back, it was saying, hey, something's wrong. That I've had to go into my body a little bit more
Yeah.
and try and trust that. And so focusing on the act of listening while trusting my body in that moment to then react when I then have to go from body to mind to mouth to communication.
Yeah.
That's where I'm trying to find my next level.
And I'll tell you, it is extra hard to do that with the people closest to you. It's a lot easier to practice active listening
100%.
with someone who is not your wife or your kid or your mother, because there's so much more noise that just as soon as my dad opens his mouth, there's already reactions I
There's
have.
baggage.
just I haven't even fully registered what he's saying. I'm just like, oh, he's
Uh,
talking to me, this must mean, and my nervous system goes a place. And even
yeah.
after all these years, it still happens that I'm listening to him and I find myself, I'm like, oh, I'm turning into a grumpy teenager right now,
Yeah.
and like I have to catch myself and take a
Yes.
deep breath and just go, oh, I see that happening. I don't have to go with that. I don't have to
Mm.
like just go down that path. I see that my body's doing that, and I am going to actively make a choice to be, 2% different than that right now and just deviate from that path ever so slightly.
2%'s good.
2% is
It doesn't have
sometimes
to be a
all that's
180,
possible.
right?
Yeah, it's all that's possible sometimes.
Yeah, it's easy to go into those knee-jerk reactions when there's already hundreds, thousands of interactions that lead you to think that there's one way
Right.
that this is going to go. My mom told me something that I think about a lot and have really struggled to apply and continue to try to apply. Right? Our parents are of the generation of seeing the moon landing, live as kids. And she heard something that she articulated to me in this way. She said, "You get to the moon, by making 10,000 adjustments of 0.00000001 degree. And I've really tried to apply that because too often we try to make that 180. I try to make that 180 when really it was 0.00000001 degree. You were that close. That came to me a lot in the ayahuasca too, where I was having these breakthroughs and these realizations, and so many of them I was like, duh, of course that's the answer. You already knew that. You already did that. You already believed that. You've already applied that. You just didn't trust yourself enough. You didn't believe it. And now that you're in this space of openness, now you're finally accepting it.
It's
So
sinking
many of
in.
these things were just
Yeah.
matter of fact. It's like, that's already who I am. That's already what I do. I've already done that. I've already said that, accomplished that, created that opportunity, that space. I just didn't trust and value it enough because it didn't get the accolade or it didn't get noticed in the way that I thought it should because of how deep and profound and impactful and important it was, at least what I told myself, right? That's that's a big thing from what I hear you saying there is like it's 10,000 adjustments of
It-
0.000001.
and
So
it completely
yeah.
relates to the somatic movements that you're starting to do now. They're
Yeah, I'm
tiny
not
little micro movements and
tiny little movements.
tiny little movements. And then you're letting the muscle relax, and it does so very gradually. It's a deceleration process.
Yeah.
And that is profound, to be able to control yourself at that level, to be able
Yeah.
to make those micro adjustments, right? Because like the way I put it, like, I don't know if you experienced this in our session, but some of my clients listening have definitely experienced this. You go into a contraction, and then instead of when you slowly release it, it doesn't release smooth. It goes and it releases all
Oh yeah.
chunky, right? So
It's clunky for sure.
right, that means go back over it again and see if you can do it slower, because sometimes we try to change too fast, and when we change too fast, we skip over stuff, and we have to go back because we didn't actually do the thing. We did it too quickly, and there's cleaning up to do. It didn't actually get done. Oh yeah, I believe that. I know that. That's already part of who I am. But is it? Did it go
Hmm.
in? Did it actually saturate? Or did it just kind of like spill over the top of the surface, and cover what we could see? But did it actually sink in? Right?
Yeah, it's like going through those motions sometimes where it's like, I did the thing, it didn't work. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You went through the motion. And I find that sometimes I'm like, I'm doing, this 6 or 7 minute kind of arch and flatten routine, right? Working the back, lower back, upper back, shoulders, head, kind of on the front as well. And I definitely some days I'm like, okay, cool, 7 minutes, like let's go. And I'm too focused on the time. And then all of a sudden I'm like pacing and I'm like, oh, she's not even done telling me what to do, and I'm already doing it. Like, slow down, take a minute. There's a reason that she's talking so unbelievably slow, to the point, small arch.
Yes.
Now just lift your chin to the sky. I'm like, okay. Hurry up, Aimee. Let's go.
I
I only
know.
got 7 minutes here.
I feel you. I feel you so hard, because like I was not into this when I first started it. I liked fast. I'm that fire type. I like it now. I like intensity.
Yeah,
That's why this was the perfect medicine for me. That's
that's
why
what you
this was
needed.
the
Yeah.
balancing out that I needed, because I can go hard all day, every day. And what I need is the freedom and the control. The actual control comes in being
Mm.
able to not go 150 miles an hour. Can I not? Could I go slower? How about slower? How about slower? Could I just coast? That's real control. Not that, we can do the max. It's, can we go in that range? Can we use the dimmer? Right?
Hmm. Yeah. Doing a lot of my meditation routine when I do my beamer session right before the somatic is just counting my breaths. Just 10 breaths. Just count to
Yeah.
10 without your mind racing all over the place.
Yeah.
Breathe in, breathe out, count to 10. And then what do? Just start over and do that again for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And then do a small little pelvic curl. And that's good enough.
Yeah.
Like
That's good enough. Yeah.
that is good enough.
You
That is
did
okay.
it.
You
You
have done
succeeded.
it. You have done it. You accomplished your goal.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be earth shaking and groundbreaking. It could just be a little arch and curl.
Love
And
it.
that's where I'm at with you and I. And And
It's
even my daughter has a couple times like looked at me from the bed as I'm like laying on the ground. She's like, Dad, what are you doing? She's like, who is that? I was like, that's cousin Amy. She looks at me all weird, and I'm just slowly moving around. She's like, you're not doing anything, Dad. I was like, I'm doing big things right
big
now.
things. Yeah, no, it's funny. My husband used to say, "Oh yeah, you should tell people like somatics." It's like just almost doing a little bit more than nothing. And I was like, "But no, there's a lot happening." He doesn't say that
No,
now
this
because
is important stuff
yes,
here.
he's had more somatics, so he doesn't say that now, but I'm really
Sure.
enjoying the,
But I get it.
yeah, and also this laying on the beamer and doing your somatics and like this is like a part of the language that a lot of members of our family speak. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
this kind of stuff. So it's like I feel like even though this is a new direction for you, like it's always been there,
Yeah, it's
right?
always been there.
It's always been there to utilize these tools. I think that it's, like moringa or something. It's part of our family
Hmm.
culture and lineage, that these are things that we're meant to align with, to bring out into the world and share, not through just talking about them, but through actually engaging with these really innovative but also ancient healing tools.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of looking in for me personally, but also then that reconnection with family and these types of, we a lot of healers in our family and a lot of communicators in our family. These are two things, a lot of entrepreneurs in our family. On all sides of my family, there's entrepreneurs, healers, communicators. And so embracing that and not having to look outside for all these external forces or entities, so much of what I need exists right around me. I just had to go too fast, too far to think that I was going to find something. And now it's like, oh, wait, so much of that stuff has already been there, is there. I can really lean on and utilize and even be like strategic and tactical about it and say, look, the relationships that I have are meaningful and personal, but I can also put them into action.
Yeah.
Like now I'm using Aimee to like level up,
Hell yeah.
right? And
Yeah. Yeah. Use me. Use my dad. He's there
yeah.
too. Your crunchy, delightful moringa mom and like all the people, right? It's like the blessing of like our family is that they've continued to work shit out like over and over
Mm,
again, and like right now you're continuing to work shit out,
hmm.
Jensen. Like you're doing it, and there's so many people in our family who've been doing it, who've been working the things out, whether it's interpersonal stuff between them, like some of those crazy horror stories that the aunts have about each other and, how they
Yeah,
used to fight when they were teenagers. There's people in their 50s that are still fighting that way with their siblings.
true. It's
But
true.
our family has continued to choose like growth and healing over and over and over, and that I think creates a lot of confidence in, us cousins and our children that, oh no, problems can be worked through, healing can occur, like we can come back from that actually.
Yeah, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation, and I'm really
So good.
excited for your new journey and supporting you on that. And I love how much you've just embraced these new tools because I feel like you're allowing them that openness that that you called
Hmm.
in. It's like it's allowing your system to literally like be more absorbent and to actually take in these things on a deeper level. So I just see that there's going to be a huge process for you of acceleration ultimately, right? But it's going to happen at a pace that I think your body is needing, at a different pace than it has in
Mm.
the past.
I'm a sponge right now. I am feeling very childlike in my need and ability to absorb right now and then be able to apply. So that's a good place. I could even just feel my energy talking to you today was kind of like giggly and joyful, even though we talked about some difficult things,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to be that sponge and stop thinking I have all the answers and be willing to ask any question and be willing to be asked any question and allowing that to be meaning and purpose versus having all the answers. And so that sponge like feeling is good. And it also has me going, oh shit, I need to do more of that with my kids and, and get rid of some of that rigidity that can be helpful, but also limiting.
Right.
And that's the place I am right now.
For sure. And as I said before, like the people who are closest to us, our kids, our direct family, they are, the hardest ones to
Mm.
change those patterns around. So like patience with ourselves, graciousness with ourselves and with them, as we're navigating a new approach, right? Or even that 2% of a little shift in the direction that, our soul or our sense is calling us, right?
You got to do even less, Aimee. It's 0.00000001 degree
Touche.
percent.
Touche. Yes.
Do even
Yes.
less.
Even less than 2%. Love it. Yes. Oh, wonderful. Well, if people are listening and they want to know about your other podcasts, they want to know where they can hear more
Mm.
of your voice and, keep up to date with the projects that you're embarking upon, like where can people find you?
Yeah, kind of one place where you can jump to a lot of different places is on Instagram. So go to Jensen Cummings or Best Served Podcast on Instagram. On my personal page, you'll see links to some of the other podcasts that I do now. I'm in the clean energy and sustainability and climate change space doing a podcast with a nonprofit. I'm completely out of my element and loving it because I'm learning so much and just very curious there. Working on mental health in the restaurant on a podcast, regenerative agriculture, mental health for DJs, community I had no idea I would want to engage with. It turns out they're very much like restaurant people, always having to put on a show, all about
Right.
being on stage,
Burning
but
out.
burning out, long hours, tough grind, all that kind of stuff. So that's been interesting. And then my son and I have a sports podcast where we just father son talk sports. It's so much fun right now, and just being able to get out there and communicate and tell stories and learn and immerse myself in that way. So definitely check out some of the podcasts and hit me up on Instagram anytime for sure. I'm very
Oh,
open to communicating and love the DMs if somebody needs or wants to talk podcast. And like I said, supporting the podcast community. So if you're a podcaster out there, especially, and you're feeling the grind, the struggle, how do I monetize this, all those things, I've been wanting to be really open to helping people out on that front as well. Because if you're willing to put yourself out there and tell stories and acknowledge other people and journeys, then I got your back.
love it. Yeah, I can't wait to actually pick your brain a bit more about that when I get some space in my schedule to reorient
Yes,
towards the podcast. I have so
of
many
course.
projects, as you have heard, but yeah. And for those of you who are listening and have taken something away from this episode, let us know. I love also receiving your comments and let us know on Instagram, Jensen or I, if there's anything that you particularly found helpful or impactful. If you have a story or feedback or questions, always open to including you in the conversation that we had here today. Well, thank you so much once again for coming on the show. And I can't wait to see you in person one of these days and get our kids
True
together.
honor.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, please.
Fantastic.
Hey there, friend. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I would love to hear your thoughts. Follow me on Instagram at Aimee Takaya and send me a DM about this episode. I'd like to thank you for being part of this somatic revolution. And if you'd like to support the podcast and help more people learn about somatics, consider leaving a review or a rating. And finally, if you'd like to have the experience of relief in your tight hips or back and learn to understand what your body is really saying to you, visit youcanfreeyoursoma.com. I can't wait to share with you what is truly possible. Bye for now.